Rusty crayfish. The rusty crayfish is a freshwater crustacean, which is native to the United States in Ohio. It was discovered in the early 2000s in Quebec in the Ottawa River. It lives in lakes, rivers, ponds, and streams and finds refuge in rocky substrates, but it can also be present in sand and silt. The average size of the rusty crayfish is around 10 centimeters without counting the claws. And the claws are wider than other crayfish. The carapace varies between blue-gray and dark green brownish color, and it has rust color spots on the side of its carapace and black bands on the end of its claws. The rusty crayfish is more aggressive than the native one. Wherever it's established, it has completely eradicated the native crayfish, and it disrupts the balance of aquatic ecosystems. And there's also a possibility of it threatening hybrids, so reds and keelback crayfish. It decreases the abundance of aquatic plants and destroys habitats for other invertebrates and other fish. In order to prevent and control its expansion, it is a bit tricky because it's difficult to control once it has been introduced. But so prevention is probably the most efficient way of controlling it. So avoiding emptying buckets of bait fish into water and to detect isolated populations as quickly as possible to reduce their invasion. It's also useful to be able to learn to recognize the rusty crayfish, and if you think that you have identified one, to notify the government as soon as possible. And only one female is needed to generate a new population, so it's very invasive.
Yeah, this species was found in Lake Pémishangan, Lake Blue Sea, and some other lake in the area. For the moment, it's not a big problem, but it can be in the future. It was introduced probably for food needs. Because Europeans eat that species very in large quantities, like we eat lobsters, and it's a luxurious food in Europe, but it was probably introduced by Europeans in the environment, and that's why, and as they don't have enemies, natural enemies, and they can grow in very large numbers in our lakes and streams.
Is it possible to catch them in traps?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You know, it's good to eat.
Somebody should encourage that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I have another question as well. Is it just like compared to the native crayfish? Is it just that this one's much bigger and native species aren't able to consume it? Is that why? Is it an issue?
Our largest species is the blue pince.
Has
claws.
Blue claw.
The blue claws crayfish. It's a lot smaller than rusty crayfish. It's about double size of our native species. It's a big one.